Alrighty. So as you can see, we're going to go ahead and start in one of our projects. This is going to be an established project we already have in our training database, just so we have some information to work with for today's training. You'll notice that our project is in progress. So we're going to go ahead and start from here. First, we're going to talk about your project plan room. First, we're going to access right up here on this top navigation bar. You're going to click on this button. Right here, it's going to pull down your link for your training plan room, or for your project plan room, sorry. And you're also going to see two options here. You're going to see the option to email and then go to your plan room. So anytime you need to send your plan room link to any of your vendors, anybody outside of your company, you can go ahead and email right here. So what this is going to do is bring up this dialog box. You can change the subject if you'd like. Then you're going to add who you're sending this to. When you click this to button, it's going to bring up your contacts list. So you can go ahead and browse through your different contacts, your third parties, your customers, your vendors, and decide who you'd like to add to that email. You're also going to be able to add any CCs. Then you can also add any external CCs. So this is going to be anybody that is not within your companies and contacts database within your RedTeam Flex. So you would just here type in the email address that you would like to send it to. And then you're going to have your message right down here. It's going to come with a standard message of I'd like to share my company plan room link with you, and it's going to give them the link. Here you can add any additional information if you would like, and then you'll just simply send the email. Now, when they receive the email, like I said, it's going to display that bodied message that they saw there, and then they're going to click on the link and get a page that looks similar to this. So what they're going to need to do to sign in is they're going to need to know the project number that they're accessing. They're going to add their company name, their first and last name, and their email address. Once they click submit, they will have access to that online plan room. Now we're going to take a look at a second, but we do have the option of securing this plan room, which means it kind of gives it a two-factor authentication process. So when they would hit that submit button, if you do have that turned on, it's going to email them a code, which they will then go back to a similar screen like this, put their code in, and then they would be able to access your plan room. And again, we'll take a look at that in just a second here. Now, if you are trying to access your plan room internally, all you would do is come to this home button right here. And you can actually just click on this online plan room button. And we'll come back to that in a second. I'm actually going to have you take a look here. We're going to go into our scope tab. And when we edit our scope details, we're going to scroll down to include in our plan room. Now, this is going to give us a few options to, in a way, configure our project plan room. First, you're going to see the ability to broadcast a message. Now, this is going to be any message that you want to type when anyone logs into your plan room. It's going to be right at the top, scrolling across. Kind of draws their attention to it. Again, you can use this any way you like. A good example, if you have already updated your schedule for your project, and you kind of want them to be directed towards that schedule, you would just go ahead and type new schedule. And then they will be able to go ahead and take a look at that. Again, you can just go ahead and type anything, use this however you'd like. Down here, you're going to select what you would like included in your plan room. So you'll see you can choose to add your plans and specs, submittals in various stages, RFIs, your schedule, your checklist. And then this is that button that I was talking about where you can secure your plan room. So this again allows you to give sort of a two-factor authentication. Is the best way to describe that. So you can either turn that on or off here. The last thing that you can add is if there is anything that is not included here in these tabs that you would like to display on your plan room, you can go ahead and add some headings and then add those files to those headings. So very simple. Go ahead, select that. You would just add, give it a name, and then add the attachments to it. So I do like to take a look at that quickly, but now we'll go ahead and we will jump into our online plan room. So again, for you to access you're going to go to this home menu button, and right down at the bottom, you're just going to click on online planner. So what we're going to do is start on a profile page. This is going to give you some general information about that project. So the location, this is going to pull a Google map from the location that you gave us in that project scope. Photos, so this will be any favorited photos will show up here. Contact information for the project manager assigned to this project, so name, email address, and phone number. And then your weather. Again, this is going to pull from that address that you provided. It's going to pull weather for that day. Next, since we did check off plans and specs, we're going to be able to view those plans and specs for the project. So you'll see here, there is the full list of our plans and specs. They can go ahead and click into any file there. And then they can view, they're going to have some general options here as far as dragging, zooming in, and then also the ability to print and save or download. Now, instead of having to back out of this screen and then go select another file, once you're in any file, you can use this drop down to switch between different pages. So if they would like to go to the next page, they can do that. They can also view it all in order just by using the arrows going left or right. You'll see here, there is also the ability to request to bid the project, and then also some filtering options, and again, the ability to download and print from here. Next, we did choose our submittals. So again, this is what that view is going to look like. So it's going to show the status of that submittal, and you'll just be able to go through and view those there. Same with RFIs. And then we're going to go ahead and view our schedule. Now, the schedule that is going to show is going to be the most recent committed schedule. As you can see, it's going to give a date as to when the schedule was last updated, so 12/15. Then they're going to be able to just select this open schedule button. And this will give them a view similar to what you would see on your desktop version. They can again drag and drop this here, just like you were able to, and view that schedule. In a few minutes, we'll take a look at how to update that schedule and push that into your planner. And then last thing I want to take a look at here is this other files that we talked about. So these are anything that is not included in those tabs that you can select. So these are those extra files that you would add. You will see your headings here, and then any attachments that you decide to upload. Okay, and as far as the online planner, that is all I have. Any questions about the planner? All right, perfect. So like I said, we're going to go ahead and move on to our Gantt schedule. So we're going to take a look here at our schedule. All right, so first we're going to just land on a view of the most current schedule here. So again, like in the plan room, we could drag and drop to view more or less. When we're ready to make some changes, we're going to go ahead and click our edit button. Now, the very first thing that I want to talk about here is publishing. Now, typically when you're making changes inside of your schedule, if you click off into another tab, there is a chance that your changes will be saved. However, if you are timed out or you log out, there is a chance that you're going to lose all of that work that you just put in to making those changes to that schedule. Just as a best practice, I will always recommend anytime you plan on leaving this screen, maybe even if you spend a lot of time on this screen, to go ahead and select that publish button every once in a while just to save those changes. When you select publish, it is not going to push it automatically to your plan room. We'll take a look at what activates that, but just to safe measure, always be sure and to hit this publish button when you are done with your work in the schedule. So up here on this navigation bar, you're going to see some pretty standard buttons moving left to right, moving up and down, zooming in and out. Anytime that you want to add a new task, you're going to select this plus button right here to add a new task. So you'll see here we come up with a task screen. Down here, sorry. So it's going to say new task. We're just going to double click that there and select our task name. Let's see. Now, any of the information in any of these tasks, if we want to change it, whether it be the name, the days, the date here, if we just double click, we can go ahead and change any of that information. Then you also have the ability to right click. Now, when you do that, you're going to get a box for task information. This is where you'll be able to fill out all of that information at one time, assign any predecessors to that task, any notes that you have for that task. Let me go back. So again, right clicking, you can change your task color. You can copy that task, delete it. You can go ahead and convert it to either a milestone or a phase. So we'll take a look at what that looks like. And convert that back to a regular task if needed. And then you can also add any tasks either above, below, add any successors or predecessors there. So very easy to use. Here, again, if you would like to use the buttons up top, the functionality here, if you want to delete any tasks, you'll just select on the task and then select that delete task button. This will give you the ability here to indent any tasks. So let's go ahead here to our testing. We're going to indent. That's going to nest that under our masonry task here. Now, just the same, if we want to outdent and take that testing out of our masonry task, we would just hit our outdent button. You have the ability to undo and redo, and then also highlight any critical paths. So we'll go ahead and highlight testing as our critical path here. Take a look at what that looks like for you. Alrighty, now we do have a few import and export. So if you ever need to import, if you are say using Microsoft projects, you can import from there using an MPP file. And then you can also import from another RedTeam project. As far as exporting, we do have a PDF, a PNG, an Excel, and again, an XML that will go ahead and transfer directly into your Microsoft projects. So again, we want to make sure any changes that we have made to our schedule, we want to select our publish button. Now this is going to give us a screen that says export to Planroom. Again, I do want to stress that this does not mean it is automatically going to push into your Planroom. So we're going to give this schedule a name, a description. We can choose our author, date created, our schedule range, whether we want our complete schedule or maybe just the visible schedule here. Again, lots of options here. We can choose to keep it company confidential. We'll go ahead and just select OK. We'll give that a second to load. While we're waiting for that to load, are there any questions either on scheduling or anything that's come up for the Planroom? Alrighty. So we're going to go to this schedule updates page. You'll notice that the schedule that we just created is in green, which means it's in draft status. Now we can come back and edit the schedule if needed. If maybe we walked away from our computer, we need to continue making any changes. We can also view the schedule here with our view button, but we want to go ahead and commit. So this is the point in time in which this will be pushed to your Planroom. So we're going to hit our tools bar and we're going to go to commit. It's going to ask us, are we okay to commit this record? And we're going to select OK. Now at that point in time, as you remember in our Planroom, we got the, now when we take a look at our schedule here, now it's going to say our new updated schedule is 1/13/2023, so today's date. Alrighty, and now as far as Gantt scheduling, that is all that I have. So again, I'll ask really quickly if we have any questions about the Gantt schedule.
And I am not seeing any questions.
Fantastic. All right, so we'll go ahead and move on to our daily progress report, and that's going to be housed under our progress tab right here. So So we're going to land on our manage daily progress page, where we're going to be able to view all of our progress reports that we have previously made, whether they are in draft status or committed status. So anytime if you would like to, you can go in, you can edit, you can view those progress reports at any time. But we're going to go ahead and start a new progress report for the day. So we're going to select our plus button or new button right here. And it's going to bring up this form. You'll see there are 3 steps, with 2 steps being optional. So we're going to start here at the top with our general. So we're going to build the general information for this progress report. Our date's going to autofill to today. If we need to change that at all, we can change our date if necessary. We're going to choose the scope of our project. We're going to go ahead and say it's our original scope. If we wanted to work off of a different scope, however, you'll be able to find those in your drop-down menu. If you're using phases in your project, you again will be able to select a phase here. We'll say we are doing building 1. And then you're going to select an author. So I'm going to go ahead and say that I am the one creating this progress report. Next box is going to be our weather. Now, like the weather in the plan room, this is going to pull by the address of the job site. However, sometimes the weather is not what it says it's going to be. So you do have the ability here to make any changes to that weather report. You can choose any conditions. Maybe it said it was cloudy today, but it did actually drizzle. We can make those changes if you know how many inches of rain you got that day, your temperature, your high, your low. The next box is going to be your census. So what we're going to do is we're going to be building a report of the work that was done on site that day and who was there to do that work. So we're going to select our add census button. And we're going to start building out our census for our daily progress report. First thing we're going to do is select a company. So we're going to say that 100% reliable plumbing was on site today. This is one checkpoint where we're going to have the ability to rate this company. This is optional here. So if we want to go ahead and let's say they did a pretty good job, we can write any comments here. Now you're going to choose a subscope if you would like. Let's say this is for our original concrete. Any tasks this was related to. So these tasks here are going to pull from your Gantt schedule. We'll say that they are working on testing. Location. So we're going to add a location. We'll say building 1. Worker types. We had laborers there. Now, one thing to note here with worker types, the important part is whether they are included in productivity hours or excluded in productivity hours. So anyone included in productivity hours, they are going to be your laborers, your supervisors, anyone there doing work that is scheduled for that job. Excluded from productivity hours. So if you had any visitors, any admin staff, anything that was not planned, those would be excluded. So we're going to say we had our laborers there. You can type in the activity that they did. And then you're going to go ahead and indicate how many workers were there. We're going to say 2 were there. And the total number of hours. So they both were there for 8 hours. So they worked a total of 16 hours today. Then we're going to go ahead and select save. And you'll see here, now that we've added that in our census, we can review that. It's going to show us anyone there that was included in those productivity hours like we talked about, and anyone excluded from the productivity hours. Now, depending on the day, you could have, let's say you're doing plumbing for a whole week. This is pretty consistent. We can copy from prior progress reports so that we're not having to fill in that detail as new every single day. So let's go ahead and say we're going to bring this over 10,000 volts architecture. They were here on 12/15. They're also here today. So we're going to save. And you're going to see it just brings that information over. Now, if anything changed, maybe there were 3 workers here instead, or 4 workers. We can change that. We can change the total number of hours. Maybe they weren't here as long. We can also go ahead and change our rating. I'm going to go ahead and save. We didn't make any changes. Last part on step 1 is going to be filling out your observations. Now we're going to take a look at where we can configure these in just a second. But these are just going to be text boxes that we can fill in regarding the work that was done that day. So you'll see here general comments we can add. Were there any delays in work, deliveries? Now, a few things to mention here is that there are ways that we can configure certain text box to be permission-based. So you'll see here project manager comments. Now we can configure this to where only a project manager would be able to add comments in here. And then the next thing we want to note here is this little lock. So now that means this is company confidential, and this is going to stay internal. So anything that is written in this near miss accidents field would be kept company confidential. And again, we'll take a look in just a second how to configure those and either select whether you want them confidential or if you want them designated to a certain permission. So when we're done with step 1, we filled out all of our text fields. We're ready to go ahead to our next step, which is equipment. So now this is optional, but we are going to be able to add any equipment utilization here. So we'll just go ahead and add your equipment utilization. We will select, let's say this one here, we had it on for 4 hours. And we will save. Now you'll also have the ability to add any attachments. So you can drag and drop any files into this progress report. You can add files from here. And then we're going to go ahead for now and just close this form. So we're going to see here on top that we have our draft of our progress report that we created for today. Now, at any point in time, if you need to come back in and make any edits, you of course can hit this edit button. That'll bring you right back in. You can also just view. When you're ready, we can go to our tools icon and we can commit our progress report from there. Any questions on the progress report, on creating the progress report?
I have not seen any questions in the chat.
All right, fantastic. So now we are going to go into our configuration menu, and I'm going to show you just where you can make those configuration changes to that progress report. Okay, so under projects here in your configuration menu, you're going to select progress reports. Now on this form, you can choose what you would like included in your progress report. So it's already going to default to date, scope, author, company, workers, and total. Now this is where you can configure your worker types. So you can even change the name of this. The thing that we want to note here again is whether or not they are included in those productivity hours. So if they are, you're going to want to check the box right next to the name that you give it. If not, you'll just leave that unchecked. So again, you can name these anything that you would like. That back to labor. Now with the observations, you're going to see here where you can add all of your observations. Okay. So what you'll do is you will select this drop-down add button, and you're going to have 2 options. You can either add a heading here, or you can add the actual observation. So with the heading, that is what it's going to be stored under. So whether it is general, safety, quality, and then the observation is going to be the actual question here. When we're creating this, when we're creating the observation, we're going to put in the question. So that's going to be our long form question. We're going to put in a short name. So that's going to be the short name that shows up right here. And then this is going to give us the opportunity to check off whether we want this company confidential, and then to assign any roles that we would like to this question, kind of locking it into anybody with that role is the only one with permission to answer that question. Down here, you can change the name of this report. If you don't want to call it a daily progress report, you're more than welcome to change that. And then you'll have a few other options. This is always a good place to take a look and see at all the little things that you actually can configure for this form. Alrighty, so that is all that I have for progress report. We're going to move on to checklists. So first, we're going to start with the configuration of a checklist, since we're already in this menu. So again, under projects, we're going to use this drop down here for request for corrections. Now, there are a few different screens that we need to go to first to configure versus our checklist types. So we're just going to add our checklist types, whether it be safety, a punch list, maybe equipment checklist. It's very simple. You'll just hit your plus button, you'll give it a name, and then you're going to decide, is this going to be displayed in a plan room and will it be displayed in the mobile? Now, once we have our checklist types, we're going to go ahead and go to our checklist forms to configure our actual form. So again, you're just going to go to that plus button and it's going to bring up this screen. We're actually going to work from a checklist that is already created. So let's go ahead into our daily safety checklist here. So you'll see this form is similar to the one that came up when I hit my plus button. So you're going to give your checklist a name. You're going to select the checklist type that this falls under. So this falls under our safety type. You're going to be able to check whether this is active or not. Accessibility. Now, if you are working with company divisions, you can assign this checklist to a specific company division that you have set up. And then we're going to go ahead and actually start building the list from here. So this button here is similar to in the progress report. We can add sections, we can add items. Now the section is going to be this heading here, what's in bold. The items are going to be the questions that we are actually answering. So a section, it's very simple. You just give it a name and a narrative. Now the narrative comes in when anybody is filling out your checklist. There's going to be a question mark right next to it. They can hover and they can get a little bit more additional detail about what it is that you're actually asking. So if they see acceptable safety conditions, if you have a narrative, there'll be a question mark, and we'll take a look at that in just a second, that they'll be able to hover over and they'll be able to view any additional details as to what acceptable safety conditions really are. The next part is our items. So let's go ahead with an item that we've already created. We're going to go into the edit button here. First, what we're going to do is we're going to give it a title. So this is what is going to come up as the actual question. Then we're going to give it a narrative. So like I said, next to your title, there's going to be a question mark where they can get a little bit more detail on what it is that you are exactly looking for. So are all workers in mobile elevated work platforms and on elevated work surfaces above 6 feet wearing full body harnesses? Now they'll be able to answer your question. We're going to choose a section this falls under. So this section are those headers. We're going to choose whether this question is required or not in order to commit that checklist. We're going to choose our responses. Now we do have a few responses you can choose from: yes, no, affirmative, negative, pass, fail, plus, minus, or none. And then our outcome. We're going to choose how we would like our outcome to be logged, whether it's checkboxes, dates, a drop down, linear scale, number, paragraph, or single choice. We have drop down for this one. And then we're going to create what that drop down is. So our outcome label are the safety conditions corrected and acceptable. That is the question we are asking for our outcome. And then right down here, we're going to put those drop down answers. So yes or no. And that's it for creating your checklist. So you would just do that one question at a time. So we're going to go back out of this, back into our project, and we're going to take a look at actually filling out a checklist. We're going to come into our home button here, and we are going to go to our request for corrections right here. And we are going to choose safety because we're going to fill out that safety checklist. Right. So we're going to select new. And we're going to add. Oh, sorry. We're going to go to our manage checklist. I'm sorry. We're going to go to new here. We're going to select the checklist that we are looking for. So we're going to do a daily safety checklist here. Now this is going to bring up our checklist that we're working with. So you're going to see your general details here again. Very similar. Our date's going to autofill. You can change that if you need to. Your author, your scope, and your phase. So we can choose a phase if we're working within project phases. And then you're going to give this a description if needed, and you can add any attachments right here. Then we're going to go through and answer our questions. So these are those questions that we just configured. So we have acceptable safety conditions. As I mentioned, we can hover over this question mark here and view any of that narrative to get a better detail into what it is we're asking. So then we'll just go through question by question and work through them. So our first question here was fall protection, workers using mobile elevator work platforms with harnesses. Now we don't know exactly what that means. So we're going to go ahead. We're going to go ahead and we're going to select over this question mark here. We're going to see exactly what they're asking. We're going to say yes, that everybody was wearing their safety harnesses. Now, was this corrected and acceptable? We didn't really have to correct it, but we'll just go ahead and say yes here. Now, electrical exposures. We're going to hover over, are all panel and inline secure? We're going to actually say no. We saw some that were not secure. Now, from this point, we're going to want to actually make that correction because we're not going to be able to say, was the safety condition corrected and acceptable? So we're going to go to our plus button here and create a request for correction. So it's going to autofill that our type is safety, our scope that we chose previously, our location. We're going to say this is in the building 1 restrooms. Give a description. So we're going to say expose cable. Our author, who is responsible for this. We're going to go ahead and say it is First Orlando Handyman Services. When do we need this correction by? We'll say the 14th. Add any attachments. So whether there are any photos that you took of the actual safety condition, you can put that there. And then do we want to keep this company confidential? So we're going to go ahead and save. And you'll see here that we do have the one correction here just for this one question. So what we're going to do right now is we're going to save this. Alrighty. And then we're going to actually go and view our request for corrections for safety. Now we're going to want to make sure that our requests for corrections are actually corrected before we move on with that checklist. So you'll see here we have this in draft status. We can view, we can edit. What we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and commit this. Okay. And then we're going to want to go ahead and send this off to whoever needs it. When this is completed, we can go ahead and mark as completed. We're going to add any photos, a date, and any remarks. And then we'll save. See, that is from today. All right. Now, once this has been marked as completed, we're going to be able to go through and either approve or reject that correction that was made by our vendor. If we approve it, we'll just select approve. If we reject it, if they send the photos or we've gone by it again and it is not up to our standards, we can reject that there at that point in time. We'll just go ahead and approve. We'll say the date that it was approved on was the 14th, who it was approved by, We'll say Red Team Construction Company, the status, and then any notes that you want to save there. All righty. So now we're going to go back to our checklist. This is our checklist we're working on. We're going to go back into the edit button here. All right. And now we're going to be able to answer this question. Were the safety conditions corrected and acceptable? In our dropdown, we can say yes, and then we can continue on working through our questions. All righty. Now with everything, when we're done with our form, we're going to save it. And when we're ready, we're going to come back to our manage checklists. We're going to, again, have the ability to edit, to view, but we're going to go ahead and say this is done, and we're going to commit our checklist. So we're going to go into our tools bar, select commit, and just select OK. Any questions on checklist?
I'm not seeing any questions.
Fantastic. Okay, 1 second. All right, now the last thing we're going to go over is our performance overview report. Now in our progress tab, we're going to go to our view button. Now this is going to pull reports. We're going to go into our performance overview. Now this is kind of a neat report. There's a lot that you can do with it. So first, what we're going to do is give it a title. You can use the standard performance overview, or you can name this whatever you would like. And then we're going to go through and choose what we want to show in this report. Do we want to show our RFIs? Do we want to show our contracting details, our contract changes, our schedule of values? And with our schedule of values, we can choose which type of items we want within that schedule of values to show. Any issues, action items, submittals. We can go through and choose our schedule, just which part of our schedule. Job site management. So if we want to add any progress reports, we can choose the date range of those progress reports. And even deeper than that, we can choose a specific author. So a specific maybe project manager that was working on progress reports. We can select that. We can choose a scope. And then within that, we can choose what from our progress reports that we actually want to display here. And then last would be any photos and attachments. So any photos or attachments that we've added, we could choose a date range. Again, we can choose a specific author, a specific scope. Once you've made your selections, let's say here, we're going to be able to save our selection. So if this is a report that you're pulling pretty often, you don't want to have to go through and kind of select those boxes on and off. You can save your selection here. Then you also have the ability to arrange. So what order do you want these to be seen in your report? Do you maybe want your progress reports to be up top? You can just drag and drop your sections how you would like them to be seen. And we're going to hit our next button there. And this is where we're going to actually view our report. So you'll see your performance overview right here. Today's date, your project details, and then all of those sections that we chose to view. So you'll see your progress right here. I did choose to view everything from it. So your scope, your weather conditions, those productivity hours, and not your RFIs. We'll just go ahead and scroll through here so you can see how all of this is laid out on this performance overview. Now, when you get to this page, you do have the ability to print this here or attach this to a dialogue. So any emails that you want to send out, you can attach this performance overview to send that out. Any questions on the performance overview? Alrighty. Well, that is all that we have planned for job site management. I'll go ahead and leave it open just in case there are any more questions that we have in the next few minutes. Please feel free to ask. Other than that, thank you so much for joining us. And we will see you in 2 more weeks for a Red Team Flex webinar on project administration. Thank you.